Okay, deep bow, everyone. Thank you for joining this live stream. This is Dr. Rob. Uh, so, some people have heard me talk about a former enemy of mine, Jason Manu Ream, who uh, some things I don't want to talk about, but who's a lot taller than me, a lot bigger than me, and came into my monk life when I was at a young stage and kind of changed the dynamic where I wasn't the white monk guy because, of course, he was a lot bigger and taller than me and whiter than me, and that hurt my ego. But anyways, so Jason is a very successful used car salesman or car salesman.
I do both. We
Well, let's
basically
go
just
for
work
used.
for a
Well,
Toyota.
I've been referring to you as a used car salesman, Jason. But anyways, this is a friend of mine who's very sincere, real spiritual practitioner on the path. This is somebody who has spent years as a monk, years following my teacher as well. And this is somebody that I feel is actually a really important part of my life and a great teacher in my life. Frankly, I feel a lot of energy right now. And I'm happy for my friend Jason here to actually be possibly coming to Vietnam and connecting more with what's going on here. And I thought it'd be a good idea to invite him onto the live stream and for us to have a conversation. And Jason actually also knows Shiva. So Jason and Shiva knew each other before me and Jason knew each other.
Mhm.
And yeah, so this is the show. This is the live stream, and thank you for being here, Jason. You look beautiful.
Yeah,
You look great.
awesome, man. Thank you for having me. Yeah,
Yeah.
my previous mortal eminent enemy. The funny part is like, you're talking about someone taller and bigger, but when we were oh, you weren't there in Italy. There was a monk that was taller than me. He was actually seven
Right.
foot,
Yeah,
and
I saw
you
that.
know, yeah, it's hilarious. But yeah, I'll just pronounce my own name just because it's Jason Manu. Manu is actually my spiritual name because I was born in a Hindu ashram. So both my parents were hippies. So I grew up around a whole bunch, basically Kashmir Shaivism and different teachers from India flying over to LA, and then my parents would organize their events and all that. Mm. And then I also did a meditation center for a year, the Vipassana retreats for a year straight, my mid 20s as well. And then around 30, I ended up doing the monk stuff. But that's a little bit of my background, I guess. But yeah, I'm honored and I'm just so happy that Rob and Shiva, you guys are both here. Continue on the path and so seriously. I mean, I think I've definitely felt a lot less alone, and inspired to quit my job now and fully kind of commit to, building a community, man, building a community and living the spiritual life. And that the life is not about money and how much you can get and it's a rat race, but actually trying to do inner work in a way that's serious. Most people, it's all posturing, it's all trying to be right about whatever philosophy they've adopted. It's not really about real introspection. But I think for both you and Shiva, I mean, it seems like you're both very committed to that, and I think we're aligned, and it's beautiful, man. I don't think I felt this aligned, ever, in terms of being able to build something, and I love it.
Yeah. And it came to mind what you said about what Seattle teaches of kind of doing external work as a way to practice internal work.
Mm,
Because there seems to be some problem when we focus so much on internal work, but it's like we're kind of just spiraling in our own mind and maybe being more comfortable with our own mind, but there's a lot of lack of access to challenges that are beyond our mind.
mhm.
And I for me, spirituality is all about being beyond the mind, beyond the personal identity, and using my life not for myself, but for everyone.
Yeah,
So yeah, I for me, I do feel hopeful. I do feel open, but it's more coming from a place of me just being willing to continue doing the work that I'm doing and trying to learn from more people and bring more people into that who want to take this seriously and um and practice together with me and see where that goes.
And I just think about every day that I'm gonna die. I don't think I've even talked to you about this. I end up having I hate that it's triggered by mushrooms, but I had a really crazy mushroom experience. I almost died. I actually am going taken to the hospital. I did about 8 grams of mushrooms by myself in Florida at a hotel, and absolutely lost my mind. And it was one of the most spiritually enlightening experiences I've had. It completely wiped me out, and it's I think part of the reason is just processing an experience. It's probably one of the most traumatic things that's ever happened in my life as well. It's a
When was
long
this?
story. This was probably about um, let's say 5 months ago, 4 months ago. No,
Dude,
maybe more
this
like
is
six now, 6 to 4,
yeah,
somewhere in there.
I don't know how much you wanna share about it, but this is right in line with, like, the experience I had in India,
Mm,
where I basically you have you had this experience where there's a point in your spiritual practice or your meditation where it's almost like you're like a dog that gets a hold of a bone that has some meat on it, and you just don't wanna let it go, and
hmm
you just give everything, your whole body and mind to whatever it is that you're doing, like holding onto that bone, and of course, for me, that's been spiritual practice and stuff, but that happened in India, and I was just basically like I was going so deep into my mind, and I wasn't eating, I was not drinking water sometimes, I was
mm,
eating discarded food, I wasn't sleeping, I was just constantly pushing beyond myself and my boundaries. And then I was leaving the group with Seattle, and I was going to this big Mahakumbhala festival, and I was just pushing it was almost like I was pushing myself into hell.
yeah,
And I remember one morning I woke up at the Tabarwa Center in Bodh Gaya, India, and that's another reason that, kind of going on a different tangent, but that's another reason that I think building relation and we gotta spend a lot of time together. We have to sacrifice a lot together, like people like you and me and people who are interested in this stuff to create relationships where, like, we can take a group of people and we can go to Buddha Gaya, India, or we can go and do a retreat, not so that we can make money, but so that we can deepen our spiritual practice and bring other people into deepening their spiritual practice. That's a real pilgrimage. But so and Tabar was very relaxed. There's not really much to be stressed about other than
yeah,
the heat and the lack of nice place to sit and relax and do work, or there's no comfort. But generally, it's very relaxed. There's not a lot of pressure from just the
hmm
natural pressure. And I remember waking up one morning, and I woke up in terror. Like, I was at the Tabaris, and I just woke up in this state of terror, and it wasn't about anything in particular, but it was just this, like, rainfall, this waterfall of terror and wrath that I was bringing myself to, and it just spiraled and spiraled and spiraled. It kept going on, and it was a total deconstruction of my ego and
hmm
totally, like, ripped my robes off my back to where I
mm,
didn't want whatever it was, I didn't wanna be carrying any symbol with me. I didn't wanna be representing for anything of myself. And I think I was sick of this spiritual ego that I developed of being a monk,
hmm yeah.
you know? And, that led me to eventually getting married and now being in here in Vietnam and trying to settle down because I just spent all those years traveling. So there's still that thing in me that's saying, "Okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing?" And I'm trying to leverage the niceness of what I have right now, the simplicity of it, to not try and take myself to the next thing, but just how can I make the very best use of this to help more people? Because I think I am in the right position and place to settle down and to keep deepening and to keep opening and to keep giving to to move forward in my practice and bringing more people to that practice as well, if they want to be, to collaborate. Not even about me being a teacher. I don't wanna be a teacher. I don't want people to be sniffing up my butt every morning because 'cause I'm supposed to be teaching meditation or I'm supposed to be leading something. I wanna collaborate with people, who are serious about doing good deeds and being mindful and talking about what detachment is and what these sutras and these teachings mean.
I mean, I think if you actually comprehended really like what how to grow spiritually and you actually prize that more than everything else, and a lot of people can't comprehend that. They don't comprehend what actually is going to cause you to spiritually grow. And that's when they get caught in that trap of thinking they know something when it's not really about knowing, right? And that's what you realize when your mind starts, cracks. I mean, I've had it happen to me many times at different levels of depth. I think the difference of this last one with the mushrooms, 'cause I'm not a big drug person. That was maybe I've done mushrooms maybe 4 times in my life. But I got really cocky because usually I have really good psychic control. And so I was like, well, I can just take a bunch of these and I'm gonna be fine. I can pull it together. That spiritual ego, right? It's like I'm already strong enough. I don't have a problem. And next thing I knew, man, like I didn't know, like first thing that happened is I thought I was dead. Like I thought my life was over and I was in a video game and it was restarting and I was going through the process of how to restart the game. And um, end up going out in basically the lobby of this high-end hotel. It's very expensive. Um, and end up first thing is like I end up seeing this woman there and I end up grabbing her wrist and she flips the fuck out as she
So
should.
you did this in the hotel room, right? And then
I end up
you
leaving my hotel room. I was alone.
but when you started, you took the mushrooms in your hotel
Yeah.
room. You went into full, basically, like, spiritual well, not even spiritual psycho, but total, like, psychosis, spiritual
I was
psychosis,
dead.
right?
Life was
You were
over. Yeah.
gone. You were totally gone, totally crazy, totally removed
Yeah.
from reality in all
Yeah.
ways, and then you went out of the hotel room as a
I didn't even know.
6'7"
Yeah.
testosterone-filled guy, and you went out and
Yeah.
just
I
started
grabbed this.
interacting, or what were you weren't
Well,
thinking, or
at first, like it was kind of weird because first it just shoots you up, right? So like it's life is like a cosmic joke in some level, right? And you kind of hit that like pretty early in that where it's like this is just one big cosmic joke. None of this is real, and there's truth in that, and you have to kind of unpack it more. It's not quite, it's not real, but also it's the thing that we're working within, and it should be respected as well. So, um, but yeah, get shot into space. I see this woman, and I'm like I've basically reached like the peak. I'm God incarnated pretty much at this point. Just going out and exploring his world. It's like not real. It's just a video game out there exploring. But I go out into the hallway and I see this woman and I'm thinking, okay, well, we're gonna go on an adventure together. And so I end up like grabbing her wrist and she flips out, but I get so shocked by it because I don't realize what's going on, you know. And then she runs off, I wasn't even trying to do anything. I was just trying to take her on an adventure, but very like casual, grabbed her wrist, she flips out. I'm like, oh fuck, what's going on? Why did she react that way? And she runs off. Like that's into that, okay, for the record. Um, but then I end up like basically looking out at this hotel. It overlooks the ocean in a super high-end place. And I'm just like, going through, man, like I basically realized that like everything is consciousness and that I've hidden parts of myself to create my reality. And then even like femininity is just the part that I push the farthest out for myself. And that's why I'm able to chase it. But it's really just me and everything kind of came back to me. I can see how it was all kind of connected and how consciousness is able to constrict itself to build out reality. And I went through this whole process from top to bottom of going from basically back out to nothing, being God, to building myself back in this thing.
so
But
how'd you get to the hospital?
so I ended up basically after that happened, I got in the elevator and changed floors and went to another floor because I was on like the 15th floor of this giant nice hotel. And I went to like the 10th floor, broke a table, threw up, and then the cops found me because the woman went and they told the cops, like, hey, there's a guy up here, and he just, tried to grab my hand or whatever. And so the cops found me, and then the cops basically realized I was fucked up and they ended up calling the ambulance on me. Or not on me, but basically get me in an ambulance, like this guy's fucked up, like we gotta figure it out. And
'Cause
the
you weren't being
ambulance,
aggressive. You weren't
no,
being yeah, so you didn't have any aggression, so they probably
yeah,
sensed that.
yeah, it wasn't like, and they were just like, oh well, this guy's obviously fucked up, we gotta get him to the hospital, basically. And so they send me in the ambulance, bro, and I just think that I'm being reborn. Like they have me strapped down to the freaking thing they're wheeling around, right? Where what's it called? The gurney, I guess.
Very
But
yeah.
they got me strapped down to that, and I'm flipping out, and I think I'm at the hospital. I'm like, okay, well, the reason I'm at the hospital is I'm going to be born as a new baby. Like I have died. This is the restarting process. I'm going to decide what I want, and then we're going to go through this, and I'm going to be reborn again in my next life. Here we go. And then I end up waking up, literally stripped butt naked except for a robe, completely empty room with just an IV and this machine in there and nothing else, and no one's in there. And I'm like sober now. I'm just like, oh fuck, what just happened?
Well, I'm just thinking in terms of you coming to Vietnam, it can't come soon enough because man, I tell you, I've really been wanting to get in shape and to
Yeah.
work with my physical health and just how spiritually geared and directed my mind is. Like I can't make that so much of a big priority. I mean, there's a lot of things. I even buying a motorbike, which I'm planning to do, it's difficult to make that a big priority because I just see that that's not the most important. But
Mm.
man, it would be great when you're here, you know, if you stay nearby or whatever, and we can go to the gym and work out and help each other that way, that would be absolutely fantastic. That would be a godsend for me. Total
Yeah, I'm all
godsend.
for that for sure. I'm all for that. Um, I mean, before I did this, selling cars, I was a firefighter for about a year. And then before that, I was a personal trainer for about a year as well over here. Um, I got a little bit of knowledge in terms of working out. I'll have
Yeah.
some fun. A lot of it's diet though and stuff, but I don't know. It can be like most things in self improvement. Most of the time, it's just pain in the beginning, and then it becomes your new normal. I mean, that's the hard part. Is in the beginning, you're just suffering pretty much through
Well,
and through.
you're gonna love Hung because you might have met her. You might have known her briefly. She was at some of the places we were at when we were monks with Seattle. Um,
Mm,
one of the Vietnamese nuns.
mm. Oh,
So
she was a nun before.
yeah, yeah, she was a nun with Seattle before.
I didn't know
So
that.
basically after I crashed out and went through this like total spiritual psychosis, because there was a lot of awareness with what was going on, but I couldn't like stop pushing myself beyond my limits. And then it was also like some self-harm in that of not eating and not sleeping and not drinking the water and stuff like that. And it basically got my place to this point where because she was my friend for years, we got along, when she was a nun. And I just reached out to her and I asked her to come and help take care of me because I like had to leave from India because I didn't want to deal with. So I left Seattle in the group, like, because you know how Seattle doesn't really like regulate the people around him. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't like step up and like tell people to calm down or like check people. And so it can be like this psychic storm going around that's just total insanity, the way that people are acting, and he just won't say anything or do anything about it.
Hmm.
So I was like going in between like a dream world and being in real life. That's how sent like my mind was.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't take all this energy that was going back and forth with people, which was just for me was like totally not connected to what we were doing, like being mindful
Hmm.
and detached and just all the busyness of what was going on, right? So we took this train in India to some place like Mumbai or something for this big session and talk at some hotel or whatever. And I just said, I'm fucking done with this. And I was kind of angry at Seattle because he wasn't like stepping. He always is like that. So it
Yeah.
wasn't like rare, but I was just so sensitive. And the train got there and I was just like, I'm not going with you people. And I was totally at this point, totally vulnerable, totally dead. I'd already taken off the robes. I had no idea where I was going to go. I had no idea about anything, right? But I was like,
Yeah.
I completely reject this whole situation. And then I was just there. And I had to like get out of India. And for whatever reason, this is the person that I said, can you come and help take care of me and meet me in Thailand? And they said, yeah, that they were willing to do that. And they came and
Mm.
helped like me settle. It took me weeks. It took me like months to even be able to sit in front of a camera again and talk with people. When I was leaving India, so I'd already broke off from the group and what they were doing. And I stayed at a hotel for a while and, was wearing like kind of normal clothes again. Just like going to the airport and being around a bunch of other people, it was my body like became transparent. Like my mind was outside my body. My
Mm.
mind was outside of my body. It wasn't in my body. And I had no ability to separate myself between the mental energy of and the body of myself and all the other people. There was no ability to do that. So I was constantly overwhelmed. And so it turned out we decided to get married and support. I mean, it was a long process before we thought about that,
Hmm.
because I didn't even know if I wanted to do that, because I've just been traveling, I've just been alone, I've just been independent.
Yeah.
But it's a spiritual relationship, and she supports me to do my work, and she takes care of me so well. And, like, there's a part of myself that's a bachelor, wanna have different relationships with different women, and, you get looks and people have interests, whatever, but I can see how not important that part of myself is. I
Yeah.
don't wanna have anything to do with that. So if I wasn't in this kind of relationship and in this kind of commitment, then I would be going into that kinda stuff.
Yeah.
And that doesn't lead anywhere, because the lust takes over. So,
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, that's been my number one struggle. I've been very honest about that always. It's
well,
like
we've
that's the
talked about
one.
that before,
Yeah.
right?
It's it's difficult, and that's the one reason too. It's like I need community. I need other people. Like you just can't be alone almost because if you're going through these things that are breaking yourself open and you don't have any sort of support there or any sort of understanding, it's like it's just it all just kind of creeps back in because you're just gonna have to interact with society and acclimate to that in order to function. Um, I wanted to say one thing though, and this is the thing is like I don't think that most people make a differentiation between going through like a psychosis or a mania or something and actual like real spiritual breakthroughs and the fact that
Oh,
they can
for
look so
sure,
similar.
for
It's
sure.
like they really I could have someone else that just does a bunch of drugs and a bunch of mushrooms and be absolutely just addicted and not get anywhere spiritually, or it can be the most mind-opening, breakthrough that actually completely changes. And I think the proof is always in the pudding afterwards. I can tell you seriously went through a deep spiritual transformation. You know what I mean? That's obvious to anyone looking. And that's that's when you have already put in a lot of work, you're ready, and those conditions arise that just allow you to get a little bit past yourself to actually see it. It's almost like, like a lot of times spiritual intention and work can be a bit of a grind because it builds up a bit of an ego. It can build up a
Yeah,
lot of blinders in order to have to block everything else, try to go this way. And then every once in a while, you're given an opportunity where all that stuff shifts to the side. I had a couple other times too when I got really, really sick. I mean, even the reason why when we first traveled to Mexico and we started traveling, I mean, I
I
almost
remember.
died in the
I remember
beginning.
the
I was,
bus. I remember
yeah.
we were on that bus. Those kinds of trips, man,
Oh my
those
God.
you can't explain that to anybody. You can't explain that to
No.
anybody at all. It's totally impossible.
Yeah. Yeah. It was everything was surreal, man. I remember, I actually wrote a little bit about this. But I remember like being in places that never seen Westerners, man. They would come up and pet my arms because they're all hairy. Like I'm like a freaking, almost like this hairy dude, right? And they're coming up to me like, "Oh my god, what's this giant monk with hairy arms doing?" And they start petting my arms, and I was like, "This is weird, man." We're in this thing. Um, yeah, it was crazy, but yeah, you get it.
This is the thing I think was very valuable for me in being the monk, because they want you to have a big ego as a monk.
Mm,
Unless you're staying at a Ajahn Chah tradition or a forest monastery or a Paok monastery, I mean, major part of your training is working with other people,
mhm,
working with like the social dynamic of that. And they want you to be proud of yourself. They want you to be spiritually proud of yourself and carry yourself in that way.
mhm,
And what I see in myself is how easy it is to get lost. It's almost like you can't not get lost in that. Because of course,
mhm,
so many times I wanted to say, okay, I'm not a spiritual teacher. I'm not a wise guy. I'm just a monk. I'm just trying to do my thing. But it always pulls you back because you're this white monk around all these people that are seeing you and you're standing out and you're a monk. They want to worship you. They want to wash your
yeah,
feet. They don't care if you're
yeah,
enlightened. They want to wash your feet because you're a monk. You know Sri
yeah,
Lanka. You spent time in Sri Lanka. You know how those people are. They don't care if you're enlightened or not. You're a monk.
yeah,
And so I see the same thing in terms of coming into community and then people are listening, or people are now you have a status, or now you have a position to share, or and so now there's a new spiritual ego that gets built up about, well, I'm the spiritual guy, I'm the spiritual teacher guy. That's a
mhm,
part of why I act so completely crazy, because I
yeah,
need to create boundaries with myself and people who aren't ready for the heat and aren't ready to self-sacrifice and not put me in that position and actually ready to practice and be miserable, frankly,
yeah,
so that
yeah,
I don't get lost in that, because that's not valuable to me. And I see
Mhm.
how dangerous that is in actually creating collaboration and communication with each other. And it's really sneaky and it's really fucking tricky because
Mhm.
you start getting some money or you start getting some status. And this is like social dynamics. So now somebody's lifting you up to be a teacher because they're trying to put somebody else down because their ego doesn't want them to be a teacher. And now you think that you're a teacher just because some random person is saying that you're a teacher to contrast with somebody else's ego for their own ego.
Mhm.
So my thing is just I don't want anything to do with any of that, and
Yeah.
these ideas of grandeur of we're building something and we're building a new earth and we're building a new spiritual community, it's just a black hole.
Yeah.
I'm looking for people who are actually ready to sacrifice themselves by coming and showing up and listening to what's going on, to what I'm sharing and to what's going on here, and then make a decision to invest or not.
Mhm.
To invest their time, to invest their mind, to invest their money, to invest their resources, whatever it might be. But relationships are a lot more valuable than money.
Yeah.
It's not difficult to go out and make money. It's just that if you live in America, you make more money and now you're spending more money because there's all these standards and stuff. But it's easy to go and make money and live simply. It's very difficult to build relationships with people that are actually well rounded and aware and deep minded and actually want to help and do something.
Mhm. No, I think it's rare. I agree with you. I mean, even with a
I
lot of
wish
people we
that it
met,
wasn't. I wish it wasn't rare. It's not like I'm happy that it's rare.
and I feel like comfortable saying that now too, because I really think that how do I say, like, it's, spirituality is so subtle, and I don't know. Even though I think people listening to us, I don't understand how you could understand what we're saying.
You
Almost,
can't. They can't. They
like you
can't,
don't
right?
get it.
So
Yeah.
that's why I lean into the entertainment stuff as well. And you see, I can't even understand that. Like I can't process that. That's why I'm always yelling at people and like insulting people, calling people white trash and calling people fucking stupid. Because I
Yeah.
can't even understand that people couldn't understand what I'm saying for whatever reason,
Yeah.
just my affinity, right? So that's a big question mark for me, right? Is how to have conversations and have an ongoing thing that people can be curious about and interested in that they don't understand, but that it gives them at least something enough to want to invest and be curious so that they can learn through connection or just learn through being time around. But
Yeah. I,
it seems to be a lot more easy to do that when there's more people on board. So if
yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
me and you and Shiva doing something together or what have you, you know, then people can say, "Oh, well, I kind of get this guy's energy. I kind of get that guy's energy." And they can see that we can work together. So
Mhm.
clearly they can also work together with everybody who's there. And then that it's not about some shallow idea about I'm a Republican or Shiva has this thing about how women should be virgins and like he demands a virgin wife. And you better watch out, Shiva, because you're talking with a 6'7" guy that doesn't play that stuff, man.
Hey,
He's on an
I'm
entirely different mentality.
well. I think
Maybe
he
you
can.
and
I think
Shiva
he
could
could
do a
probably in
podcast
Asia.
about that.
In Asia, man, I think he could probably pull it off. I don't think it's impossible to have a virgin with
He's
whatever if he
also
wanted.
he's also like he's also like xenophobic or something. How are you a xenophobic Canadian that listens to like Nick Fuentes and is like a Rush Limbaugh fan? I don't know, but
Yeah. But I was gonna say, that's why I stopped doing my channel before when it was coming to. I did my spiritual rights stuff, and I got a group of people together, and I thought I was kind of building something for a while there. But then, I ended up having kind of me and the main guy that I was doing it with, our priorities just didn't align. But also, I realized I hated being a teacher. Like I wanted other people before, and to have us all kind of talk about stuff, even though it didn't really create for great content, to be honest, most of the time. Just because it's being in that teacher position, I'm like, I'm not gaining anything from this. Like, I'm just putting stuff out and I'm trying to be entertaining and maybe, expressing certain ideas, but I'm not being unspiritual was just like, the irony was just too much. And I was like, I've got to stop this. But I still feel like I'd get back into it, but I just want to do it on my own terms in a different way that works, because that didn't work. That's how I feel about it.
Shiva, you want to talk to Jason? Say anything to Jason a little bit? Hold on, Shiva. It's difficult for me to hear you. Hold on. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Jason, you need to join our channel more and be part of the conversations. We need to include you, and definitely when we're together in person, we'll make live streams, and you'll get benefits out of it. That's for sure. So
Yeah.
But this
So
is one of the problems. This is one of the problems, right? Because without that investment and that self-sacrifice, it all just becomes this kind of shallow show.
mhm.
You know what I mean? Like we're coming together to hopefully make a little bit of money on YouTube or get a couple of views or get different people to agree or it's like we're using each other for content.
Yeah.
So my question is like how to break out of that. Like Shiva and this guy Adi Asaya, like they had that kind of relationship in that situation going. It's just like a dead end. It's like trying to be a social media guy. You can't, and I tried to talk with these two guys about this. You can't be a spiritual social media guy unless you have a bunch of money to hire Sadhguru or to donate $1 million to Sadhguru so he comes in your podcast studio at your $1 million house. Then yeah, you can be an online famous content spiritual guy. But otherwise, it's such a small group of people that are actually going to be able to come across this and tune into it. And in terms of like a commercial conversation between spiritual people, what are they gonna be doing listening to Jason and Dr. Rob and
Mhm.
Shiva? They're gonna go listen to Sadhguru and Eckhart Tolle and whoever it is. So it seems like there's some need for investment and self-sacrifice where you're actually putting yourself in a vulnerable position, and that's when you're actually creating an energy and a dynamic where people don't just watch what you do, but they listen to you. They listen to what's going on. So that's my question to Shiva, man, is how can you exploit Jason for your YouTube channel? Like you had a podcast, this ridiculous podcast with Jason about Dr. Rob and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
I mean, nobody's more ridiculous than me, but but how can we actually be vulnerable together?
Mm.
Not just try to exploit each other. And especially not just try to exploit the viewers. Because that's the worst thing.
well, people generally speaking don't do things that don't benefit them and they don't get some rewards. So it's important to give and have something be returned, even if it's a pleasurable sensation or feeling of satisfaction. So, yeah, views, appreciation, generosity, all these things matter. You don't want to make videos for one person.
Yeah,
I
but
think
it's
what
just
you're
like go ahead,
I
Jason.
was gonna say, I think that as far as actually becoming famous off any of this stuff is not gonna happen. I think what we're trying to do is find people that are like-minded like us, right? That's kind of the goal in reaching out to those people and getting some synergy that we can build something. I think that we're not none of us are gonna be influencers, famous spiritual influencers, and I don't think we should be. Um, and I think what we should
Well,
be is
not
be
now,
a
not
voice
in
for
the
people
near
that are
future. Not in the near or immediate I mean, 10 years down the line, it might be possible that we develop, hopefully, spiritually to a point where something changes. But
Mhm.
100%, you're not gonna be making a bunch of money, just doing spiritual content. I'm still listening. Shiva's listening to you, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, I think
That's
that what I want to do is kind of create a little bit more of like monologues and other stuff with AI. I think I showed a little bit with Rob what I had kind of in mind in terms of doing kind of deeper things that people could listen to that are insightful. And writing is a big passion of mine, whether it be like I want to write a book and see how that goes, and then also write and record stuff in order to have different talks and different speeches and stuff. And that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. My goal and intention here is to become like a spiritual Kai Cenat or Aiden Ross, any of one of these streamers. People stream and they promote gambling and degeneracy, only whatever. I mean, but people need to get popularity that are conscious, sane, meditative, practice morality and generosity.
Well, I
And
think that the only thing is I don't think you're considering why they're popular and what makes something popular. Popularity is, popularity contest just means a bunch of people, on average, think that agree with them or like them. That's all it is. So um, if you want to be popular, then you have to do things that are popular, right? So it's playing that status game. It's getting on celebrities and all this other stuff, and you know. that's how they got where they're at. But I don't think we're really plan on doing that. I don't think being popular is really much of a goal. I think creating a deep spiritual community with there's very few people, and maybe some of them will be wealthy and want to contribute, that actually offers benefit is really what's the most important thing.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how time progresses and how I grow and how my values have changed. But at least right now, I can tell you popularity is a big goal of mine. That's what I want to experience. And maybe popularity means 20,000 subscribers or 50,000 subscribers, and I'll get that satisfied. But who knows? I'm definitely going for the long term and long haul. And
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
I would say too, my background is marketing. I mean, I don't know if you know my bachelor's in marketing. Well, no, I mean, that's why I'm curious to try different things. I mean, I try to do like 3 or 4 different types of channels and seeing what actually works, because I think a lot of it's experimentation and seeing what actually hits. Hey.
yeah, absolutely. Gary, thank you very much. With love and kindness. Thank you, Carrie, for your super chat. Thank you, Sarah, as always. Eagle person, yeah.
Eh.
Well, how are you?
Yeah.
so it's there's different elements, right? There's different dynamics of what's going on where like Shiva, I think is a little bit less he's less experienced, Jason.
Mhm.
I'm not talking about spiritual levels or anything, but just in terms of the journey and living in community and stuff, being with teachers.
Yeah.
So he has this idea that mainly he wants to, he's a spiritual guy, but he wants to exploit and leverage his kind of idea of himself as a spiritual mastermind content creator guy to make
Mhm.
money for himself. He
Mhm.
sees this as a business. He also sees the problem in that, but just in like a little bit of a way. And so, I'm looking at that and I'm saying that's very against my values and it's kind of a dead end. So like Shiva has taken his YouTube channel that he's had for years, right? And his whole career and his whole life is about his YouTube channel, and he's made it entirely about me. His whole YouTube channel, his entire YouTube channel is entirely about me. His entire community right now is entirely about me. And so, what I'm trying to say to Shiva is that he needs to relook at what he's doing and how he's approaching things to maybe what I would recommend for Shiva to do is try to stay at a center to get some more training with a teacher. He came to meet Seattle and he was so intimidated. There were other factors. Well, I could have done a better job as well in facilitating him to connect with him. But he went to like in a 10-day retreat. He went to like 2 or 3 or 5 sessions that Seattle did for a
Mhm.
very, very small amount of time. So, yeah, because that's entirely different from me. I mean, I'm financially independent. I'm financially secure right now.
Mhm.
And Shiva and I will be for the indefinite future. So I don't need to do this for money. But Shiva
Mhm.
is not, and he wants to be that way. So even though he has these different ways of being or different mentalities, I'm still willing to work with him. I still like
Mhm.
him. I still love him as a brother.
Mhm.
But this is something that's very real in terms of the difference between how we're spiritually showing up. I'm not saying I don't like money or
Mhm.
whatever, but it's just there's not a need. Whereas for Shiva, he's like, he needs for this to have a monetary aspect to it. And what I'm trying to tell Shiva is that that's kind of a dead end. And if it wasn't a dead end, he wouldn't have made his entire YouTube channel about this totally insane guy, that's just acting crazy on his channel and change his whole persona to be about being in relationship with me.
Yeah, I think there's something subconscious going on there, obviously,
Something
in terms of.
subconscious, yeah. Like with the virgin thing. Same with the virgin thing, right? See, clearly there's some kind of subconscious situation going on.
Well, I think if you're willing, I think there's plenty of women are born all the time. I mean, there's plenty of virgins out there. I still think if he wants a virgin and he's willing to, you know, find a girl or whatever, I don't even think that's an issue for
Jason, have
me.
you
But
ever experienced this? So this Shiva guy is like, I don't know, he's like 5'10" or something like that. He's like a normal height. He's basically 6 foot, right? But
yeah.
he's like super short for his height.
Mm.
Like he when he stands next to me, he's almost similar height to me. But he in the mind, like in the mind image of him, he's like 5'6" or five, like 5'7" or something. It's totally weird.
Let's say, I guess we would say he's in your subconscious too. Then.
Yeah, he's in that's my subconscious relationship with it. Maybe it's me trying to cope from my past experiences with you as my spiritual brother, where you're
Yeah.
tall for your height at 6'7".
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I guess in terms of Shiva, I think good for him. I think anyone that's willing to sacrifice and go out and really try, and I think he'll eventually see it. And I think he's sincere. Ultimately, that's what matters. I think
Yeah,
if
I
you're
think
not
he's
dealing with
sincere.
truth, that I remember one of my favorite teachers is what was his name? Oh my gosh, now I'm spacing. It was Nisargadatta Maharaj, the famous Advaita Vedanta teacher. And he used to talk about how earnestness is the most important quality on the path. Just sincere earnestness for truth. And I think that anyone has that, you have to go through whatever you're gonna have to go through, and everyone has their weaknesses. But as long as you have a sincere, earnest desire for truth, that's all that really matters. And that's how I kind of feel about it. If I see someone that's really sincerely striving towards truth, no matter how they're messed up or what beliefs they have, then I can respect and love them as a brother.
Yeah, I feel that way about Shiva.
Mhm.
'Cause he has, like, these totally material like, Shiva doesn't even is, like, afraid of Advaita Vedanta, and he's smirking because he literally but he's talking about, like, Mount Kailash. Shiva shat on Mount Kailash 3,000 years ago, and Mount
Mhm.
Kailash is imbued with Mount Kailash is, Shiva's shit, and it's like, that's maybe that's materialism. It's spiritual materialism. You know what I mean? And if you're somebody like
Mhm.
Sadhguru, you're leading a big group of people, or you're like an influence or something in some way. That's one thing. But if you're like basically you're starting from zero and you're teaching people spiritual materialism and like trying to sell them spiritual necklaces and stuff. I mean, that's like TikTok spirituality.
Well, the fact is, Shiva's going to be more in line with most people than we are. I mean, most people are sure, there's a whole market there. I mean, like, it kind
Oh,
of fits with what he's trying to do. So if he's,
he's
and I think he
smirking. He's
allows,
smirking right now. He's smirking because he doesn't even believe in that shit. And that's why
yeah,
sometimes I come to him. He doesn't even believe in that kind of stuff. He knows
I
that
think
that's
he,
all fake. He's
yeah,
been banned from Isha Foundation. He's been banned from his community. Can you imagine me or you being banned from Tabarwa? It's
hmm,
impossible.
yeah, no, you
It's
can't be
and
banned.
that's the difference. That's why I'm not like full on about Sadhguru and Isha because they do things in a little bit of a they don't have enough space for me. Like I reached out to them when I was a monk and I said, "Look, I'm a monk. I want to come here. I want to come and visit. I want to come and practice." And they said, "There's no way for you to come here unless you've taken inner engineering." And of course, it's just some fake course. You watch videos, you don't have to do anything. And then you join the Zoom meeting and you get your initiation.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I get when you have a lot of people and they're popular, so they want to not have to bother with people that don't have a basic understanding of what they're about or whatever. And it's more that's the kind of corporate mentality. I think that it's the I don't consider the average person to be very deep. Even the average person that might be into this or that, they're usually looking for a belief system. They want to be right. They're not really looking to go deep into spiritual work, and so those things just cater to those people, and they always will. And I think they serve a thing. I mean, I've been through plenty of things. I mean, I remember I went through Landmark, which is one of these big personal development sort of things. Um, but they're very culty at the top in terms of like wanting more money, and basically the more courses you sell, the higher up you can go. And it's built on a kind of thing like that. But I learned a lot from them as well. I think it's even some people talk about. I never did Scientology, but I feel like Scientology, it's like where they have certain things. You go through certain courses, maybe you learn things, and they're expensive, and they serve a certain purpose. And I learned certain things, and then you move. And that's why I don't really hate on it. But I also know that it's not true. But I think you have to go through even with Shiva. I think if once Shiva, if actually end up getting, you end up getting more women, you end up getting more money, and then you realize, oh, okay, this isn't it. But sometimes it takes getting it too in order to actually really change your mind. And you'll just chase it until either it becomes too painful because you don't reach it and you want to renounce it, or you do reach it and then you realize, okay, this is, you know, never ending, right? It's like you can always get more, hotter, better. It's the same game.
What do you think about the people that watch, but they don't have any capacity to understand like what's going on.
I think that I think consciousness in general, and especially like higher level consciousness, a lot of it is, you know, beyond the mind, that state. If you're really able to embody that state, I think it does translate to some degree, but they're not going to understand, and that's okay. And then hopefully there'll be a few that do, but I don't think we're really trying. I mean, this is mostly just watch two monkeys talk, three monkeys, Shiva, talk on about, their own
Shiva
stuff. And
doesn't
even if
talk
I,
much unless
yeah, I noticed
Shiva's
that too.
pretending that there's going to be 10 people that give him $3,000 to go and visit a mountain with him in India. Then he doesn't talk much.
Yeah, yeah. um, but what was I saying that I think that there's not consciousness itself is what matters, and having that state, just exposing people to that is great. But I think it's also poor content, right? Like in just like an objective way, right? Having stuff that people can easily consume, or even a topic maybe, or whatever it is. But that's not what we're doing right now. This is more just, sharing the energy, sharing the love, connecting with people, and that's perfectly fine too. I just don't view it as anything other than that, I guess. Is the point of this is just to be, right? To be with you, to show it being as us is in the world. Maybe people think, oh wow, these guys are leaving everything and, you know, going and just purely devoting everything to the spiritual life. And hopefully that can be grasped, and then they're just curious, but I think because society says usually the way that you're supposed to behave if you're spiritual is you just a very good boy, and most people are just trying to be very good boys and girls. And if you're the best and goodest, most boy and girl, and you do all the good things and none of the bad things, then you're a very good girl, and that's how you get to heaven, or that's how you get you know whatever they're trying to reach enlightenment is just by being the goodest best boy. And it's like it doesn't work that way. um, the mind always thinks in dualities, and accepting everything and able to see in a non-dual way is really what we're trying to get to. And doesn't mean just doing drugs or destroying your mind either, but it does mean that um, you're trying to get space from it. It's about identity more so than it's about um, trying to do XYZ good action, because that's just playing the same game almost.
The doing itself without attachment.
hmm Yeah, that's where the value is. That's where the real spiritual attainment is. And Theodo's such an amazing example of that. And he has his quirks too, you know. I
Yeah.
still thought find like Theodo's thrift shopping thing to be one of the funniest quirks I've ever seen. That man loves thrift shopping like I've never seen.
Yeah.
But that's like his only thing. Like he's the most detached, humble, like, it's really not about him even when he's thrift shopping. He's just thinking, oh, this would be good at the center, and he's saving money and he's trying to create good. That's
Well, I think he sees in a long-term way, in like a realistic, practical, long-term way that's even people who have experience with him can't comprehend. You can't digest how
yeah.
far in the future he's seeing. I was I was with him
And
and Ellie I was with him and Ellie at an airport. We were
mhm,
transiting to India or something, or Vietnam, and I was asking him like, "Seattle, you know, you were always talking about, having the good center and the good location, the really nice situation." I said, "So when is that actually gonna happen for Tabarwa?" And he said, "That's gonna be towards the end. That's gonna
mm,
be 20, 30 years from now when it's established to that point." So I really believe in
mm,
that, and I believe in Seattle's wisdom to a degree where I don't see any, like, difficulty or confusion in terms of me practicing the way that I am or being the way that I am with people in terms of the broader vision of Tabarwa. Because it's like,
mhm.
even 20 years down the line, Tabarwa's like 18 years old, I think Seattle said. There's no place
Mm,
for Westerners in Tabarwa. You
mhm.
go to Tanland, there's no place now they're trying to do that and build that in America, so they've got some more support, they're trying to do some things, but there's
Well,
no, like, solid Western Tabarwa group in that way, where people can
well, it was
fold
like
in and step in.
it was the environmentalists, that were there because they did have a building that Americans had donated to some American couple, and
Yeah.
they named it after them. I
The
can't remember what it was
coup
called in Tanland.
kind of took it all away, but that's one of the things, so this big donor is kind of a woman who comes from a wealthy family in, like, Oregon,
Mm,
and she was one of Seattle's first Western followers, apparently,
mm,
even before Seale came up. And so
mm.
she's come back after all these years. She's become a nun again, and now she's donating like lots of acres and property and all kinds of time and energy and money to building in America. So I think that for me, I identify with Tabarwa a lot. I identify with Seattle a lot and the vision of that. So I see myself as being a part of and with Tabarwa, but trying to develop and establish and grow my own thing in my own way to create future possibilities and structures for people to key into. Because
Mhm.
now, and even those people who were there in the past in the USA Center, the USA Hall, I mean, that didn't really work out. I mean, those people weren't even following 5 precepts.
Yeah.
They weren't even, like, accepting to not be in conflict with Burmese people living in Burma.
Well, that's why I
So,
thought they were environmentalists. I mean, they weren't there for spiritual reasons. They were gonna help as part of a humanitarian project,
yeah, yeah.
which is fine. Yeah.
So for
I
anybody
mean,
who's out there watching, this is an open door. This is a door for people who are seriously interested in spirituality, who are considering to become a monk or a nun or a volunteer. This is a door. I mean, here we have Jason Manu, who's like a very successful businessman in America. Entrepreneur, self-made man. What's the best way to call it? Very, very successful man, right? And very good-looking man and fit man and everything. And he's saying, "Okay, I'm gonna take my resources now, and I'm gonna go see about how I can take these steps to be more fully into living a spiritual life and trying to work with people and help with people and get back into the movement of that." The 3 people who are here, right? Dr. Rob, who's not I don't need to go into all my personal details, that's not what this is about. But Dr. Rob, Manu, Shiva Kai I mean, talk about personal details. You change your passport name to Shiva Kailash Shambho. These are
commitment.
all the yeah, commitment, right? Exactly. So these are 3 guys who all have real lived experience with sacrificing their entire lives to to take refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and the path of real spiritual community and real spiritual practice. Period. So this is an open doorway for people to connect with that potentiality and that possibility in their lives. You don't necessarily need money to do that, but you need merit, and or you need a dedication and a willingness to sacrifice. People always reach out to me. I've been reading the Bible and I'm ready to become a monk and I'm very sincere and I just need you to talk to me and help me get a visa to go here and there. But if you have that kind of mentality, you have to show up. You have to be willing to reach out again and again and again. You have to be really willing to sacrifice your life and yourself. And if you're in that position, you have a real opportunity to change your fucking life, to be in community,
All
to
right.
work with, to help people.
I mean, for me, I think that a lot of it was just realizing you're gonna die, and you just realize that you can't take any of this stuff with you, and that therefore it's worth putting all the eggs in the spiritual basket because your body's gonna die, and whether you die sooner or later is kind of irrelevant. It's gonna be a matter of what can you do while you're here is how I feel about it. And I think once you feel that way, it's very hard to be in society. And it was very hard acclimating back after because I had to come back as a COVID really after I planned to teach English in Vietnam at the time after I disrobed. I was just picking up my stuff back in Sri Lanka and I got stuck there for 6 more months because of COVID. And then I went to Ukraine for about a month, thinking it would blow over still, but it never blew over. But my plan was actually to teach English in Vietnam because Vietnam had actually been one of my favorite places out of all the places we had gone.
Vietnam
And
is a great place to live. It really,
yeah,
really is. It's a great place to live. And it's
I
a
think
great
so
place
too.
to invest too. I
Yeah,
mean,
I think
I
so.
think I think Vietnam is like there's no other country that's better positioned to have fast development and get a lot
Hmm.
back on investment in the next 10 or 20 years. I
Hmm.
fully believe that.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, going over there and doing all that makes total sense to me. But yeah, I guess just for people listening, I mean, once it becomes obvious if you really want a spiritual growth and finding like-minded people, there's just not many people out there that are really willing to work with non-attachment and aren't after money, aren't after trying to be all-knowing teachers, but actually just
Well, what do
really
you
open-hearted.
of course, the all-knowing thing is a real difficult thing when you actually have people that are sitting in front of you and listening,
Hmm.
So it's like, if you're leading a meditation retreat, instead of you taking on this position where now you're gonna channel Shiva's farts, literally, to, "I'm Shiva, I have a ridiculous thin beard and a ridiculous mustache and long hair, and we're gonna all go to Mount Kailash." Instead of that, like, you have to step into sacrificing yourself. You have to be meditating more hard and giving up yourself more than anybody else there. But one thing that I think is a big question mark is with the money. So it's easy enough for me and you to say, all that attachment to money is not that worthwhile. What phone do you have? You look at the camera quality is great.
iPhone, just regular iPhone 14, I think, max.
Anyway, all I'm trying to say is that there's two men that are 6 foot plus here who were Buddhist monks for years, and there's one guy here who is, trying to make some money so that he can, buy a phone and go back to his mom's house in Canada. So
Well,
it's
so
a
you can buy
little
a
bit.
virgin. You could probably buy a virgin. I'm sure there's somewhere that would sell them a virgin if you got enough money. That
Is
might
that
be a
what you want,
solution.
Shiva? Is that what you want? You're trying to save up money to buy a virgin? Do you still think you need a virgin wife for your spiritual teachings? It's important for you? This is a situation that happened, Jason. So I was doing the like this stuff with Shiva. And so like there was some energy around it like a month or 2 months ago with some of the people who used to know Shiva, and there's like a big group call together. And so he was trying to like use that big group call to do something, but I wasn't there or I wasn't willing to, like, I had something else to do. So he said,
Hmm.
"Okay, I've got a big group of people that are just sitting on their edge of the seat in this big Discord call and they want
Hmm.
me to talk about something." And then he goes into a diatribe and a talk about how important it is for women to keep their purity and how there's nothing wrong with him wanting a virgin wife. And that's the thing. There's a quote from Sadhguru how, like, once you get power, then you go into this like corruption. You get corrupted by power. So you really have to watch out for that, Shiva. And I see that in you all the time. I think that's why you're very quiet a lot of the time, because you know that you don't really have anything to say with the degree of intensity and intimacy going on here, besides telling people to go to a mountain with you. And in terms of me abusing Shiva, he likes it. He's a sub. He's submissive. He likes it. He does. He likes it. He's a masochist. I don't know what it is about him. All these people have reached out to Shiva and said, "Shiva, please stop letting this Dr. Rob guy berate you." But all dom sub relationships, all masochistic relationships aren't actually toxic, right? Right,
No,
Jason?
absolutely. I agree with
So
you
Shiva, of
100%.
course, doesn't know anything about that. I mean, I could really get into Shiva, and then he's really going to start smiling. But I mean, we're building the spiritual relationships here. And somebody said this comment that I thought was really true. They said, "Genuine connection is what people crave. That's why people are moving towards long term podcast content. You just got
Mhm,
to spend time sharing breath with another person." So I see
mhm.
it that way.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Eva, what do you say? You got anything to say? I don't hear anything. Is he talking?
No, he's like chewing or like thinking of something to say, literally. I can't even
Yeah.
imagine how Shiva's personality would change if he was like around you, if the three of us. Shiva, how about this? How about this, Shiva? When do you think you might come to Vietnam, Jason?
I'm gonna leave here August, probably be in LA for 2 weeks, and so probably like September, mid-September, late September, somewhere in there.
So stay in India until September, Shiva, and then come and we'll try 3 months to be we could all be here together hitting the gym in Vietnam, possibly.
Be great.
Shiva, you're muted. We can't hear you. Hello, Shiva? You're super low. Your volume is super low. All right, he's got to refresh his thing.
Mm. Yeah, no, I'm curious too what the dynamic would be like, to be honest. But I mean, I would think it'd be positive for the most part. It's just,
Oh, for
it's
sure. Very positive. All right, I got to refresh Shiva because I can barely hear you.
we're gonna restart this.
It's just on my end with Shiva. Hello, Shiva. Are you there?
Well,
Okay, I can hear you,
Oh, there we
Shiva.
go.
so not in Ho Chi Minh because it's a dirty, stinky place.
All right, let me tell you something. I know you don't follow the content, the streams here, Manu. You're gonna think this is absolutely crazy. Okay, so Shiva is he's a spiritual guy, or he's a spiritual character. We can both attest to that, right? But
Mhm.
but fundamentally, he's operating in like a bagpacker modality because he doesn't have money. Basically, he has a lot more money than he alludes onto, but he's very stingy and he's very fearful and he's
Mm.
very doesn't know where he's going to get his money in the future, right?
Yeah.
So so he came to Vietnam. He followed me here. And he said, I got to be by the beach. I got to be by the ocean. So I'm going to go to Da Nang. I'm going to be by the ocean. So he finds the cheapest hotel, the cheapest Airbnb that he can in Da Nang, which is a tourist town. And it's not even like a hotel for tourists or for Western people. It's like a hotel for Vietnamese families that are traveling around. So the first hotel that he goes to, he's staying with this guy, Adi. Adi has said that there's never been any noise problems or anything. One morning, Shiva wakes up and he says he hears machines outside at this super cheap hotel in Vietnam, right? So, what would you
Mhm.
do in a situation like that?
Ignore it.
Ignore it. He calls the police on the hotel, or literally, 100% literally. Now he's laughing because it's literally. Sometimes I say things give a little bit extra, but literally. So he either calls the police on the hotel or he calls the police on the business, the local business at this super cheap hotel, super cheap hotel. Then they kick him out, and he's super prideful because he says the police said that the Airbnb is not going to be able to rent to Westerners anymore because they shouldn't be having a noise like that. He goes to another hotel and there's a rooster outside. He threatens to call the police to the new hotel owner unless they do something about the rooster outside. So anyways, it's just I don't even know what I was talking about, but it's a weird mentality that he has where you pay for quality, man, and you don't call the police on hotels because there's noise outside when you're staying at the cheapest place that you could find.
Is true, Shiva?
100% true.
Perfect, true.
Here, look, this is the meme of Shiva that I made of him doing this. Here, you got to see this. So this is Shiva calling the police on a rooster. Oh, wait a minute, that's not the right one. So that's Shiva's like inner self, like his spirit self or whatever that I created, a version of him that I created. Hold on. All
Sorry.
right, check this out. All right, here we go. That's Shiva calling the police on a rooster at a super cheap hotel in Vietnam.
Pretty accurate, man.
Yeah, 100% accurate. It's weirdly accurate in terms of his like internal personality.
I like how the rooster's inside though. Was the rooster inside? Maybe that would make more sense about why he did it.
Well, the rooster was basically kicking him out of his own apartment, his own hotel. Right? That's the idea. So the rooster has taken up residence in what's supposed to be his hotel. And
Yeah.
so he stepped out as a clown in the street calling the police because there's a rooster outside.
I mean, the rooster was obviously an alpha. There's not much you could do at that point,
Oh,
especially if you're vegan. If you're a vegan, what are you
That's
gonna do?
Shiva's big thing. That's Shiva's big thing. That's why I think the dynamics would be very interesting if you were around because Shiva is totally like a beta that identifies as a sigma. And when you
Mm.
have like real alphas around, Shiva's whole thing gets flipped up. So
I mean,
But he's
you
great.
know,
I love him. I love him. I really do. I
you
really
know,
enjoy him. I had him. He stayed at my couch for a while, and we really got along. It was nice energy. He's very entitled, but it's very nice having him at my house. He's very respectful and just not self-aware fully, but he's a great guy.
what do you want to do, Shiva? You want to work out and go to the gym, get ripped?
Yeah, why not?
You said
But
why not?
but yeah, why not?
Okay, yeah, it's hard to hear you. Sorry, it's like breaks up a little bit.
Yeah, I would love to go to the gym and work out and get ripped, and also swim in the
Yeah,
ocean.
let's do
Oh,
it.
so Shiva was saying like it would have to be not in Ho Chi Minh, right? So I was saying that Shiva doesn't know anything about particular places. Because I was saying like if we all met together in Ho Chi Minh, so he's like the last person you ever want to talk to for travel advice in the world. But but he now, after he's gone through this process of calling the police on a rooster and calling the police on 3 machines outside his cheap hotel, now he doesn't even go to the beach. He said he had to go to Da Nang to be by the beach and nearby the water. Now he doesn't even go outside of his hotel unless he's going to buy food and eat at a restaurant, and then he goes back into his little hovel, and he doesn't even do live streams or make videos or make content. He's just staying for no reason in a
Mm,
cheap Vietnamese hotel for Vietnamese people in Da Nang, Vietnam, for zero reason, waiting to go to India and begging for money online for a phone.
rough.
Yeah, it's rough. So no, I mean, we could look at if we were all going to make a commitment, then we could definitely look at. I mean, we could look at getting a 3 bedroom house or something in like Dalat or whatever in a beautiful mountainous area. Probably, I'm more as much as oceans are good. Oceans attract a lot of like foreign tourists that are more
Mm.
like commercial. It's more commercial, but I've been to Dalat. I spent like 2 months in Dalat. That's a fantastic place. Fresh
Are there
air,
any?
mountains.
Are there any like hot springs type of things over there too?
Well, we'll get a place with a bathtub. I mean, if the 3 of us were saying we were gonna stay for like a month or 2 months at a place and try and do something, live together, then, we'll get a fucking crazy ass place. Uh,
Mm.
you
Too
know
big for a bathtub. I'll just tell you that.
No, we'll get a big bathtub. We'll get a real bathtub, man. I can't
A
imagine.
jacuzzi.
That's the
Get a
only
jacuzzi.
thing about being 6'7" that I can't agree with, even though you got the muscle to back it up. And the arm wrestling prowess. I remember one time, I'm an arm wrestler one time.
Yeah, we
You gotta
did.
watch this guy. You gotta keep this guy on a very
I
short
still,
leash.
dude.
Keep
I
him from a
still have the
distance.
pictures. I still have the
Keep him
pictures of
from a
us arm
distance.
wrestling.
Because I thought I'd be able to. Man, this guy's got a lot of power and a lot of leverage. So you really got to be careful with this guy. But no, I bathed with one of my students at a bathtub in Australia. But we can get a hot tub or something like that. In
I just,
September or
like over
something.
here, like it's just nice. Some of the places have sauna, like hot and cold or whatever. I feel like it's actually really good. If you have a place where you can get like a super cold pool and whatever. That's what I was kind of thinking. Because there's places over here like that. I was thinking they, in Korea are huge too, the bathhouses and all that. I was just wondering because I never went to one in Vietnam. If you knew if they had
They
them
have it.
there.
They have it in Dalat because Dalat is the coldest place basically in Vietnam, and
Okay,
there's tons of nice places to live and stay, and the air is very fresh. And if you live a
okay,
little bit out of the city, I mean, for $1,000 a month, it's going to be a villa. It's going to be plenty of space for everybody. Be a crazy place. So we could
yeah,
definitely do that. You know,
sounds good to me.
Hung loves to cook, so I mean, it would be great vibes. It'd be great
And
energy.
having a native that speaks, Vietnamese, obviously. Have you picked up any
Yeah.
Vietnamese?
Well, I mean, just to make people smile and laugh.
Yeah, I'm horrible with learning languages. That was the one thing, man.
Oh
Even with
my
all that
god.
travel, I've just never had that gift.
No. Well, that's the 3 of us, we can all agree with that.
Good, good. Well, I'm gonna let you go, brother. It's been a pleasure, though.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, brother.
thank you,
Take
Rob,
care.
and see
Take care.
Shiva. See you,
Take
man.
care. Take care. See you
Take
soon.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
That is a big live stream for our community.